Hey everybody, it's Brian and welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we dig into the research you send us and break it all down.
I'm Chelsea. I'm a nutritionist, and I'm excited to get into it. And by the way, if you like these deep dives, you can find a ton more over on the Detox Health YouTube channel.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground on the channel already.
Yeah, we did a whole deep dive on the vegetarian diet a while back, and even one on the paleo diet, too.
Lots to explore. So today we're taking a deep dive into the ketogenic diet. It's been super trendy lately for weight loss. And, some people even claim it can help with things like blood sugar control or even cancer.
Definitely.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, can you give us the basics? What exactly is keto?
Sure. So keto is basically a really high-fat, very low-carb way of eating.
Okay.
So think something like 75% of your daily calories from fat, 20% from protein, and then only 5% from carbs.
Wow, that's a huge difference from how most of us eat.
It is. It's a big shift. And there's also the therapeutic keto diet, which is even stricter, like 90% fat.
90%.
Yeah, but that's usually done under medical supervision for specific conditions.
Gotcha. So that makes sense why it's for medical supervision. So why such a big focus on cutting carbs? What's the logic behind that?
Well, the goal is to get your body into a state called ketosis.
Ketosis.
Yeah. Your body normally uses glucose from carbs for energy, but when you drastically cut carbs, your body has to find a different source of fuel. And that's when it starts breaking down fat and producing these molecules called ketones.
Ketones, hence ketogenic.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like switching your body's energy source. And I guess that's when people start seeing those supposed benefits like faster weight loss.
Right. But it's important to remember that a lot of the initial weight loss on keto is actually just water weight.
Ah, so it's not all fat melting away right away.
No, not quite. When you cut carbs, you deplete your body's glycogen stores, and glycogen holds onto water. So you lose that water weight first, then the fat loss kicks in at a more gradual pace.
That makes sense. One thing I noticed in the research you sent is that a lot of the studies on keto and weight loss focus specifically on people with obesity.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what about people who aren't dealing with obesity? Does keto still apply to them?
It can lead to weight loss for anyone, really. But the most dramatic results in the research tend to be in people with obesity.
Okay.
So if you're just looking to lose a few pounds, keto might be a bit too extreme.
Right. You might not need to go that far.
Exactly. There might be other less restrictive diets that could work better for you long term.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people think of keto as this quick fix,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it's more nuanced than that.
It is. For people with obesity, though, how does it actually contribute to weight loss?
Yeah, good question.
Well, there are a few things at play. One is that ketones themselves might actually suppress appetite.
Oh, interesting.
So it might be easier to stick to a calorie deficit when you're on keto because you're just not as hungry.
So it's not just a willpower thing. There's something biological going on, too.
Yeah, potentially.
Fascinating.
Huh?
What else contributes to the weight loss?
Another factor is that when you're eating very few carbs, your insulin levels stay more stable.
Good.
And that's important because insulin is a hormone that tells your body to store fat.
All right.
So by keeping insulin low, keto might make it easier for your body to burn stored fat for energy.
So less insulin, less fat storage. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some potential benefits, but what about the downsides of keto? What are some things people should be aware of?
One major concern is nutrient deficiencies.
Okay.
You're cutting out a lot of fruits and vegetables, which are full of vitamins and minerals.
Right.
And that could lead to deficiencies in things like vitamin A, E, and B6, as well as folate, calcium, magnesium, potassium.
So you're trading carbs for fat, but you might be missing out on other important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like you can just pop a multivitamin and make up for it, although that can help.
Right. It's not a perfect solution.
No, you really need to make sure you're getting enough low-carb vegetables like leafy greens, broccoli, asparagus, things like that.
Yeah. Those are still allowed on keto.
Yeah, they're packed with nutrients and won't kick you out of ketosis.
Gotcha. And I guess working with a registered dietitian could be helpful too.
Absolutely. They can help you create a keto plan that makes sure you're meeting all your nutrient needs.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it's not just as simple as cutting out carbs. There's more to it than that.
definitely. Another thing that comes up a lot with keto is digestive issues.
Oh, right. I saw that in the research too. What causes those?
Well, it's mainly due to two things: the lack of fiber and the high fat intake.
Okay.
Fiber is super important for keeping things moving smoothly in your digestive system.
Makes sense.
So without enough of it, constipation is common.
Right.
And then suddenly eating a lot of fat, even healthy fats, can be hard on your system too.
Okay.
It can lead to diarrhea, cramping, bloating, even just general stomach upset.
So it sounds like keto can be a bit of a mixed bag for your digestive system.
It can be. It really depends on the person.
Now, another area where the research is kind of mixed is heart health. Some studies show potential benefits, but others raise some concerns.
Right. There's no clear consensus yet.
So what's the bottom line there?
It seems like the type of fat you eat on keto plays a big role.
Okay.
Like one study found that keto decreased triglycerides, which is good, but it also increased both good and bad cholesterol.
So it's not a clear win for your heart?
Not necessarily. If you're mostly eating saturated fat from things like red meat and butter, it can raise your LDL cholesterol, which is the bad kind.
Gotcha.
But if you focus on unsaturated fats from avocados, olive oil nuts, fatty fish, you might see an increase in HDL cholesterol, which is the good kind.
Okay, so it really matters what kind of fats you're choosing.
Exactly. It's not just about being keto or not. It's about making healthy choices within the keto framework.
That's a good point. Something else that came up a lot in the research is the potential for keto to help manage blood sugar, especially for people with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, that's one of the areas where there's actually a good amount of research.
And what does the research say?
Well, low-carb diets have been used to manage diabetes for a long time. And keto kind of takes that to the next level.
Okay.
By cutting carbs so drastically, you minimize those blood sugar spikes, which is super important for managing diabetes.
So it's like giving your pancreas a break from having to constantly pump out insulin.
Exactly. And studies have shown that keto can improve blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity.
Wow, so there's actual evidence for that.
There is. One study even found that keto reversed type 2 diabetes in some of the participants.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not a guaranteed cure.
Right.
And another analysis found that the benefits often decreased after a year, probably because it's hard to stick to the diet that long.
Right. Sustainability is a big factor with any diet.
Yeah.
Now, one of the more controversial things we saw is this idea of the Warburg effect and how keto might have anti-cancer effects. Can you explain what that's all about?
Sure. So the Warburg effect is basically this theory that cancer cells rely heavily on glucose for fuel. So the idea is that by depriving them of glucose through a keto diet, you could potentially slow down their growth.
Interesting. So like cutting off their food supply.
Exactly. It's a pretty bold idea, and it's still very early stage research.
Right.
But there have been some promising findings. One small study found that people who followed keto for a longer time had better survival rates.
Wow.
But it's really important to emphasize that this doesn't mean keto is a cancer treatment.
Of course not.
It's just an interesting area of research that needs more investigation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So way too early to make any big claims, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, we've talked about how hard it can be to stick to keto. Can you expand on that a bit? What are some of the biggest challenges people face?
Well, for one thing, meal planning and prep can be really time-consuming on keto.
Right.
And then there are social situations like, dinners with friends, parties, holidays, where it can be tough to stick to the diet.
Definitely. It's not always easy to find keto-friendly options when you're eating out or at someone else's house.
Exactly. And then there's also the mental aspect of it.
What do you mean?
Well, having to constantly think about what you can and can't eat can get exhausting.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
It can feel very restrictive.
So it sounds like keto takes a lot of dedication and discipline.
It does. It's not for everyone.
Now, what about people who find the standard keto diet too restrictive? Are there any modifications or less intense approaches they can try?
There are, but it's really important to talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian before making any changes to the diet.
Okay.
They can help you find a variation that's safe and effective for you.
Right, because everyone's different.
Exactly. Like there's the cyclical ketogenic diet, which allows for planned carb refeeds.
Oh, interesting.
And there's the targeted ketogenic diet, which allows for some carbs around workouts.
Okay, so there's some flexibility there.
Yeah, these variations might be more sustainable for some people.
That's good to know, because I know a lot of people get intimidated by how strict keto seems.
I can understand that. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Well, we have a ton more to cover about keto, like specific conditions, practical tips, common myths.
Oh, and we can't forget those studies on keto's impact on energy levels and even cognitive function.
Right. We'll get into all of that, plus some FAQs about keto in the next part of our deep dive. So stay tuned.
Welcome back. So before we get into all those extra keto details, there's one thing I wanted to mention.
Okay, what's that?
Well, there are some people who really shouldn't try keto at all, or at least not without talking to their doctor first.
Good point. It's not for everyone.
Right. So people with certain medical conditions should definitely avoid keto without their doctors, okay? Things like pancreatic disease, liver problems, thyroid issues, eating disorders.
Okay.
Those can be made worse by keto because of the high fat and the way it changes your metabolism.
So if you have any health concerns, talk to your doctor first. Gotcha. Assuming you are a good candidate for keto, though, let's get into the practical stuff.
Sure.
What are the do's and don'ts of actually following the keto diet?
Okay, so let's start with the do's. First and foremost, prioritize healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, nuts, eggs. Those are your best friends on keto.
So even though it's high fat overall, you still want to make sure you're choosing the good fats.
Exactly. Like we were talking about earlier with heart health.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else should people be doing?
Load up on low-carb veggies, leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini.
Okay.
They're full of vitamins and minerals and fiber, which is super important since we talked about the constipation thing.
Right. Got to keep things moving.
Exactly. What about fruit, though? Are there any fruits allowed, or is that a no-go on keto?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know a lot of fruits are high in sugar.
They are. Most fruits are off limits, but berries are okay. Things like strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, they're lower in carbs and you can have them in moderation.
Okay, so a little bit of fruit is all right.
Yeah, and they add some sweetness and antioxidants, too.
Nice. So we've got healthy fats, lots of veggies, a sprinkle of berries.
Yeah.
What about all the other stuff most people have in their pantry? Like processed foods. Where do those fit in?
As a general rule, avoid them as much as possible.
Okay.
They're usually loaded with unhealthy fats, added sugars, artificial ingredients, all that stuff that can kick you out of ketosis.
Right.
So stick to whole, unprocessed foods as much as you can. Like the things we've been talking about, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, nuts, seeds, healthy oils.
Makes sense. I feel like that's good advice no matter what kind of diet you're following.
It is. Eating real food is always a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other do's people should know about?
Definitely hydration. Hydration.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Super important. The extra fat and the changes to your metabolism can make you more prone to dehydration on keto.
I see.
So carry a water bottle with you everywhere and sip on it constantly.
Good tip. Okay, what about the don'ts? What should people avoid doing on keto?
First and foremost, don't ignore your doctor's advice.
Right, they're the experts.
Exactly. If they tell you keto isn't right for you, listen to them. They know your medical history and they can give you the best advice.
Absolutely. So it's always about personalized advice, not just following the latest trend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as tempting as it might be, fast food is a big no-no on keto.
Okay, so ditch the drive-through.
Yeah, it's just full of unhealthy fats, carbs, processed ingredients, all the stuff we're trying to avoid.
Right. So what about types of fat? We talked about choosing healthy fats, but are there any specific ones to avoid?
Trans fats are a definite no-no.
Oh, yeah. Those are bad news.
They are terrible for your heart health. And it doesn't matter if you're on keto or not. Those are just bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So check those food labels carefully.
Yes, and steer clear of anything that says partially hydrogenated oil.
Noted.
Yeah.
What about all those low-fat products that are everywhere? Are those okay on keto?
Be careful with those.
Okay.
A lot of times to make up for the lack of fat, they add sugar and artificial ingredients.
To make them taste better.
Right. But those can spike your blood sugar and totally sabotage your keto efforts.
So it's not just about cutting fat. It's about choosing the right kinds of fat.
Exactly. And here's another common mistake people make: overeating.
Oh, right.
Just because keto allows higher fat doesn't mean you can eat as much as you want.
So portion control is still important.
It's crucial. You still need to be mindful of your calorie intake.
That makes sense. It's easy to get carried away when the food is tasty.
It is, especially with all those delicious keto-friendly recipes out there.
Speaking of which, we talked earlier about how mentally challenging keto can be. Any advice for avoiding that feeling of deprivation?
Yeah, it's important to find keto-friendly versions of your favorite foods.
Okay.
Get creative with recipes, explore keto cookbooks. There are tons of options out there.
So you don't have to feel like you're missing out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can still enjoy delicious food while you're on keto.
That's good to hear. Now, for someone who's totally new to this whole dieting thing, is it even safe to start keto without any professional guidance?
I always recommend talking to a doctor or a registered dietitian first.
Okay.
Especially if you're new to keto or if you have any underlying health conditions.
Right.
They can assess your individual needs and risks, help you create a safe and effective plan, and monitor your progress.
So don't just jump into keto blindly.
Yeah, definitely not. Get some personalized guidance to make sure it's the right fit for you.
Okay, now we talked about keto and energy levels, but one thing I saw in the research is this thing called the keto flu.
Oh, yeah.
What is that exactly?
So the keto flu is this temporary phase that some people experience during the first few days or weeks of keto.
Okay.
It's basically as your body is adjusting to burning fat for fuel instead of carbs.
I see.
You might feel tired, headachy, irritable, maybe even nauseous.
It's not fun.
No, not really, but it usually passes pretty quickly.
So like your body is throwing a little tantrum because it misses its carbs.
Kind of. It's mainly due to the depletion of glycogen stores, which are your body's quick energy source.
Right.
And it takes time for your body to switch over to burning fat efficiently.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So is there anything people could do to minimize those keto flu symptoms?
Definitely. Staying hydrated is super important.
Oh, yeah, water.
Yep. Drinking plenty of water and electrolytes can help replenish the fluids and minerals you lose during the transition.
So keep that water bottle handy.
Exactly. Another thing that can help is gradually reducing your carb intake instead of going cold turkey.
Okay, so ease into it.
Yeah, start by slowly cutting back on carbs over a few days or weeks.
Gotcha. And what about electrolytes specifically?
Make sure you're getting enough, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Those can get depleted on keto.
Okay, so hydration, gradual carb reduction, and electrolytes.
Gotcha. What about exercise? Should people change their workouts while they're on keto?
It's usually a good idea to listen to your body and modify your exercise routine as needed during that initial transition phase.
Okay.
You might find that you have less energy or endurance than usual, so don't push yourself too hard.
Right. Take it easy while your body gets used to this new fuel source.
Exactly. But once you're fully adapted to keto, you might actually find you perform even better.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some people experience improved endurance and reduced muscle soreness on keto.
Interesting. So it could actually enhance athletic performance in the long run.
It's possible.
Ah.
We also saw some stuff about keto and sleep. Yeah, some people say it helps them sleep better, while others say it causes problems.
Right. The research is mixed, and it really varies from person to person.
So what's the deal there?
Well, some people report improved sleep quality on keto,
Okay.
possibly because ketones help stabilize blood sugar.
Ah, so you don't have those blood sugar spikes and crashes during the night.
Exactly. Which could lead to more restful sleep.
That makes sense. But some people have trouble sleeping.
They do, especially during that initial adaptation phase.
Right?
Those keto flu symptoms we talked about, like headaches and nausea, can definitely mess with your sleep.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, one more intriguing claims I saw is that keto can be brain boosting. Is there any truth to that?
There's some interesting research emerging, but it's still pretty early.
Okay.
Some studies suggest that keto might improve memory and cognitive function in people with mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's disease.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How could keto have that kind of effect on the brain?
Well, one theory is that ketones provide a more efficient energy source for the brain, especially when glucose metabolism is impaired.
So it's like a backup generator for the brain.
Exactly.
Fascinating. So it's not just about weight loss. It might actually be protective for the brain, too.
Potentially, and some research suggests that keto might also improve focus and mental clarity in healthy individuals.
Huh. Really?
Yeah, but more research is needed to confirm that.
Well, the brain benefits alone make keto worth investigating further.
I agree. Now, I know there are a lot of misconceptions about keto floating around.
Whoa, yeah, definitely.
So I thought it would be helpful to debunk some of the most common myths.
Okay, let's do it. What's the first one?
One big one is that keto is a high-protein diet.
Okay,
It's actually very high fat and moderate protein.
gotcha. So it's not about loading up on steak at every meal.
Nope. Another misconception is that you can eat unlimited amounts of meat and cheese on keto.
Oh, really? I thought those were keto staples.
They're allowed, but
Huh.
moderation is still key.
So even though bacon is keto-friendly, you can't have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Exactly. Choose a variety of healthy fats and protein sources, and don't forget those veggies.
Right, balance is key.
Yeah.
What about this idea that keto is just a quick fix for weight loss?
That's another myth.
Okay.
While you might see rapid weight loss initially, sustaining it requires ongoing commitment to the diet.
So it's a lifestyle change, not a crash diet.
Exactly. And another myth is that keto is so restrictive that you can't enjoy any of your favorite foods.
Yeah, I can see how people would think that.
But with a little creativity, you can find keto-friendly versions of a lot of dishes.
So it's about finding ways to adapt your favorite foods to fit the keto guidelines.
Exactly. It's not about deprivation. It's about finding delicious ways to eat that support your goals.
I like that. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but I'm sure people still have a ton of questions.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
So let's move on to some frequently asked questions about keto.
Sounds good. Let's clear up some confusion.
One question that comes up a lot is about the long-term effects of keto.
Yeah.
We've talked about some potential benefits and downsides, but is it safe to follow keto for years and years?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, we don't really know for sure.
Why not?
Most of the research on keto has focused on short-term effects, usually a few months to a year,
Okay.
so the long-term implications are still a bit of a mystery.
So it's an uncharted territory.
It is. More research is needed to really understand what happens when people follow keto for a long time.
So if someone's considering keto for the long haul, they should proceed with caution.
I would say so. And definitely keep their doctor in the loop.
Makes sense. What's another question you get asked a lot?
People often want to know if it's okay to exercise while on keto.
Right. We talked about modifying workouts during the initial transition, but what about once your body has adapted?
Well, once you're fully adapted, you might actually find you perform better on keto.
Really?
Yeah. Some people experience increased endurance and reduced muscle soreness because their bodies have become so efficient at burning fat for fuel.
Interesting. So it could potentially be a performance enhancer for athletes.
It could, but again, more research is needed. And as always, listen to your body and adjust your workouts as needed.
Makes sense. Okay, and another question we got is about alcohol. Can you drink alcohol on keto?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, I know a lot of alcoholic beverages are high in carbs.
They are, and they can kick you out of ketosis pretty quickly.
So is it best to avoid alcohol altogether?
Ideally, yes. Especially in the beginning while you're still adapting.
Okay.
But if you do choose to drink, stick to low-carb options like dry wines, spirits, hard seltzers.
So low-carb options in moderation, if at all.
Exactly. What about other beverages?
Yeah, any keto-friendly recommendations?
Water should be your go-to as always, especially on keto.
Right, good old H2O.
You can also have unsweetened tea and coffee,
Okay.
but avoid adding sugar or any high-carb sweetener.
What about those keto-friendly coffee creamers and sweeteners that are everywhere these days?
Be careful with those.
Okay.
Some of them can contain hidden carbs or artificial ingredients that might mess with your ketosis.
Right, so read labels carefully.
Exactly. Choose wisely. Now, another common question is about cheat meals. Are those allowed on keto?
Ooh, that's a good one. I know some diets allow for a cheat meal every now and then.
But cheat meals are generally not recommended on keto.
Okay.
They can quickly throw you out of ketosis and undo all your progress.
So it's a stricter approach.
It is. Consistency is key with keto. If you're constantly cycling in and out of ketosis, you're not going to get the full benefits.
So no cheat meals. But what if you're having a really intense craving for something that's off limits?
Try finding a healthy, keto-friendly alternative.
Okay.
Like if you're craving pizza, there are recipes for keto pizza crusts made with almond flour or cauliflower.
So it's about getting creative and finding substitutes.
Exactly. There are usually keto-friendly options out there. You just have to look for them.
Good to know. Now, what about vegetarian or vegan diets? Can you do keto if you don't eat meat or animal products?
It's definitely more challenging, but it is possible.
Okay.
The biggest hurdle is getting enough protein and all the essential nutrients while staying within the carb limits.
Right, so it takes even more planning and attention to what you're eating.
Exactly. Vegetarians and vegans on keto need to be really mindful of their plant-based protein sources like tofu, tempeh, legumes, nuts, seeds, and they might need to supplement with certain nutrients too, like vitamin B12.
Okay, so doable, but definitely requires extra effort.
It does. What about pregnant or breastfeeding women, though? Is keto safe for them?
That's a good question. I would imagine their nutritional needs are pretty high during those times.
They are, and that's why keto is generally not recommended during pregnancy or breastfeeding.
Okay.
A restrictive diet like keto could lead to nutrient deficiencies that could affect both mom and baby.
Right, so it's best to stick with a more balanced, nutrient-rich diet during those crucial times.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the financial side of keto. Is it an expensive way to eat?
Yeah, that's a question I had too. I know some specialty keto products can be pretty pricey.
They can be, but it doesn't have to be super expensive.
Okay.
You can follow keto on a budget by choosing less expensive protein sources like
Yeah.
eggs, chicken thighs, ground beef,
Yeah.
and buying frozen veggies, which are often cheaper than fresh.
Oh, good tips.
And cooking at home more often can save you money, too.
So being resourceful can make keto more affordable.
Absolutely. Now, aside from the keto flu, are there any other potential side effects people should be aware of?
Yeah, good question.
Besides the keto flu, some people experience constipation, nutrient deficiencies, bad breath, and changes in bowel movements.
So not all sunshine and roses?
Nope. But remember, staying hydrated, gradually reducing carb intake, and getting enough electrolytes can help minimize those side effects.
Right, and focusing on nutrient-rich foods.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Make sure you're eating a variety of low-carb veggies, healthy fats, and protein sources.
Solid advice. What about the long-term sustainability of keto? Is it realistic to eat this way for years?
That really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Some people find it easy to stick with, and they love the benefits,
Right.
while others find it way too challenging or restrictive.
So there's no right answer.
Nope. It really depends on your individual preferences, lifestyle, and health goals.
Makes sense. Now, we briefly mentioned intermittent fasting earlier. Can you explain what that is and how it relates to keto?
Sure. So intermittent fasting is an eating pattern that cycles between periods of eating and fasting.
Okay.
It's not a diet itself. It's more about when you eat rather than what you eat.
So it's about timing your meals.
Yeah.
How does that connect to keto?
Well, combining intermittent fasting with keto can actually enhance the benefits of both.
Really? How so?
Intermittent fasting can help accelerate weight loss and improve blood sugar control,
Okay.
while keto provides steady energy from fat, which makes it easier to fast for longer periods without feeling super hungry.
So it's like a power couple for weight loss and metabolic health.
You could say that. And aside from those benefits, some studies even suggest that this combo might have positive effects on brain health, heart health, and maybe even cancer prevention.
Wow, that's a lot of potential benefit.
It is. But it's important to remember that this approach can be pretty challenging, especially for beginners.
Right. It's not something to jump into lightly.
Exactly. So if you're considering combining keto and intermittent fasting, start slowly. Don't try to change everything overnight.
Okay.
Gradually reduce your carb intake and shorten your eating windows over time. And most importantly, listen to your body. If you're feeling overly hungry or fatigued, or if you're experiencing any negative side effects, adjust your approach. It's about finding what works for you, not pushing yourself to the limit.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about keto supplements. There's a whole industry built around them,
Mm.
but are they really necessary or even beneficial?
That's a great question. And the answer is it depends.
Right.
Some keto supplements can be helpful, but others are totally unnecessary or even potentially harmful.
So you got to do your research.
Exactly. Don't just buy anything with a keto label on it.
Right. So what are some of the most popular keto supplements out there?
One big one is exogenous ketones.
Exogenous ketones.
Yeah, those are basically ketones that are produced outside the body.
Okay.
So you're essentially consuming ketones directly.
I see. And what are they supposed to do?
People claim that they can help you reach ketosis faster, boost energy, improve mental focus.
So like a shortcut to ketosis.
Kind of. But they can be pretty expensive, and the research on their effectiveness is still limited.
Okay, so more research is needed there.
Yeah.
What about MCT oil? I've heard that's a popular keto supplement.
It is. MCT oil stands for medium-chain triglycerides,
Okay.
which are basically fats that are easily absorbed and converted into ketones by the body.
Gotcha.
People add it to coffee or smoothies to boost energy and ketone production.
So it's like a quick hit of fuel for ketosis.
You could say that,
Yeah.
but be aware that MCT oil can cause digestive issues in some people, especially in large doses.
Okay, so start slowly with that one.
Definitely. Now, we talked earlier about the importance of electrolytes on keto.
Right?
Are electrolyte supplements helpful?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Electrolytes can get depleted on keto.
Okay.
So a supplement can help replenish those minerals and prevent symptoms like fatigue, headaches, muscle cramps.
So those can be useful for maintaining electrolyte balance. What other supplements do people commonly take on keto?
Some people take collagen, which is a protein that can support joint health, skin elasticity, and gut health.
Okay.
Others take probiotics and prebiotics to support gut health, since the reduced fiber intake on keto can sometimes disrupt the balance of bacteria in the gut.
So those can help with potential deficiencies and support overall health on keto.
Exactly. But remember, supplements should complement a healthy diet, not replace it.
Right, they're not a magic bullet.
Nope. They're meant to fill in the gaps, not be the foundation of your nutrition.
Now, another thing people often struggle with is weight loss plateaus.
Yeah, those can be frustrating.
They are. You see great results at first, and then things just stall. What causes that, and what can people do to overcome it?
Well, one common reason is that people get a little more relaxed with their diet over time.
Okay.
They might unknowingly start eating more carbs or hidden sugars, which kicks them out of ketosis and stalls their progress.
So those little slip-ups can add up.
They can. Another factor is that your metabolism naturally slows down as you lose weight,
That makes sense.
which means you need fewer calories to maintain your new weight.
Right.
So you might need to adjust your calorie intake or increase your activity level to keep losing weight.
So you got to keep adjusting as you go.
Exactly. It's not a set it and forget it thing. And sometimes plateaus are just a sign that your body needs a break.
Really?
It could be adjusting to the changes you've made, and it just needs some time to stabilize.
So a plateau isn't always a bad thing.
Nope. Sometimes it's just a natural part of the process.
Okay, so if you're experiencing a plateau, what can you do?
Well, the first thing is to double-check your diet and make sure you're still strictly following the keto guidelines.
Okay.
Track your food intake for a few days and see if you can identify any hidden carbs or slip-ups.
So accountability is key.
Absolutely. And you might also need to slightly reduce your calorie intake or increase your exercise to give your metabolism a boost.
Gotcha. So tweak those calories and get moving.
Exactly. And sometimes a short break from keto can actually help reset your metabolism and jumpstart weight loss again.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
It's called a keto refeed.
Okay.
And it's basically where you increase your carbs for a few days before going back to a strict keto diet.
So it's like strategically tricking your body.
Kinda. You're giving it a little break and then surprising it with keto again.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that weight loss is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
There will be ups and downs, plateaus and breakthroughs.
Exactly. Patience and consistency are key.
Couldn't agree more. Now, I saw something about dirty keto versus clean keto. What's the difference?
So dirty keto is basically a less strict approach
Okay.
where you're focused on hitting your macros, even if it means eating processed foods, artificial sweeteners, unhealthy fats.
So it's like the junk food version of keto.
Yeah, kind of. Whereas clean keto is all about whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay.
It emphasizes nutrient density and quality.
So it's about making healthier choices within the keto framework.
Exactly. And while both dirty keto and clean keto can lead to weight loss, clean keto is generally considered to be healthier and more sustainable.
Okay.
You're more likely to get those potential health benefits we talked about if you're nourishing your body with real whole foods.
Makes sense.
Right.
Now, I think it's important to acknowledge that any restrictive diet, including keto, can be tough on mental and emotional well-being.
Oh, absolutely.
It can be a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Any advice for staying mentally healthy while you're on keto?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so important to focus on the positives of keto,
Okay.
like the increased energy, the mental clarity, the improvements in your health markers. Celebrate those wins.
Good advice.
And find a supportive community. Connect with other people who understand the challenges and can offer encouragement.
Right. Keto can feel isolating if you're doing it alone.
It can. And don't forget about self-care. Make time for things that nourish your mind and body, like meditation yoga, nature walks, hobbies. It's not just about the food, it's about your overall well-being.
That's great advice. And remember, it's okay to ask for help if you're struggling.
Absolutely.
If keto is feeling really tough mentally or emotionally, reach out to a therapist, a counselor, or a registered dietitian who specializes in eating disorders.
Yes, please do. Okay, so let's recap some key takeaways about keto.
Okay.
As we've discussed, it can be a really effective tool for weight loss and blood sugar control, but it's not for everyone.
Right. It's important to have realistic expectations and get personalized guidance.
Definitely. The key to success on keto is consistency, making healthy choices within the keto framework, and prioritizing your overall well-being both physically and mentally.
Before we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just say, remember, keto is a tool. It's up to you to decide if it's the right tool for you based on your individual health goals, preferences, and lifestyle.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's about finding an approach that helps you thrive.
I love that. It's not about following a rigid set of rules. It's about finding what works best for you and helps you live your healthiest, happiest life. I love that. It's about finding what helps you thrive.
Oh.
Now, before we wrap up our keto deep dive, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on.
No?
It came up in a few of the sources you sent, and it's something I'm personally curious about, keto and athletic performance.
Yeah. It's definitely a hot topic these days, especially in the world of endurance sports.
Right. I've heard some athletes say the keto gives them a real edge.
Yeah.
But how could a high-fat diet actually be good for athletic performance? It seems kind of counterintuitive.
Well, the idea is that once your body gets used to burning fat for fuel, you basically become a fat-burning machine.
Okay.
You have access to a way bigger energy reserve than someone who's relying mainly on carbs. And this can be especially helpful for endurance athletes who need that sustained energy over long periods of time.
So instead of hitting the wall when their glycogen stores are depleted, keto athletes are tapping into their body fat for fuel.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But is there any actual research to support these claims?
There is some evidence that keto can be beneficial for endurance athletes,
Okay.
but the research is still pretty mixed.
Okay.
Some studies have shown improvements in things like time to exhaustion and VO2 max,
Okay.
while others haven't found any significant differences.
So more research is needed to really know for sure if keto is a performance enhancer for athletes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that the transition to a ketogenic diet can be pretty tough on athletes.
Especially those who are used to getting their energy from carbs.
Exactly. They might experience that initial dip in performance we talked about.
Right. The keto flu and that whole adaptation period.
Yeah, so athletes who are thinking about trying keto need to be aware of that and be patient with the process.
Makes sense. Now, if an athlete does decide to try keto, are there any specific tips or things they should keep in mind?
Definitely. One big one is electrolyte balance, especially for athletes who are sweating a lot. You want to make sure you're replenishing those lost electrolytes through food and drinks, or maybe even supplements.
So hydration and electrolytes are extra important for
Yeah.
keto athletes.
Absolutely. Another thing to pay attention to is protein intake.
Okay.
Keto is high in fat, but it's also moderate in protein. And athletes need enough protein for muscle growth and repair.
Right. So it's about finding that balance between getting enough protein and staying within the keto guidelines.
Exactly. And as always, it's crucial to work with a qualified sports nutritionist or a registered dietitian who has experience with ketogenic diets for athletes.
Okay.
They can help you create a plan that's tailored to your individual needs and goals.
Great advice. It's always best to get personalized guidance, especially when it comes to something as nuanced as athletic performance. Well, I think we've covered just about everything there is to know about keto.
I think so.
So to wrap things up, what are some key takeaways our listeners should remember?
Well, as we've discussed, keto can be a really effective tool for weight loss, blood sugar control, and maybe even more.
Okay.
But it's not a magic bullet, and it's definitely not for everyone.
Right. It takes planning consistency and a willingness to make some pretty big changes to your lifestyle.
Exactly. And it's crucial to approach keto with realistic expectations and get guidance from qualified healthcare professionals.
Absolutely. So do your research, talk to your doctor, and make sure keto aligns with your personal health goals and lifestyle.
Definitely. And if you're looking for more info on keto or other evidence-based nutrition and wellness topics, be sure to check out the Detox Health YouTube channel.
That's right. We're always adding new videos to help you navigate the world of health and make informed choices.
So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this Keto Deep Dive. We hope you learned a lot and feel more informed about this popular diet. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.